Shout out to John Cena for trying to bring back jean shorts. I mean, he never truly brought them back, but at least he tried. I'm assuming that there were like 10 dudes out there that actually tried jean shorts because of him. Maybe he should try to bring back like jean overalls. Will those ever be a thing? I don't know. But if there's somebody that can bring back anything, it's probably John Cena. And kudos to him for wearing shorts while wrestling. Nobody needs to see dudes in like just trunks or like Speedos. Anyways, let's get straight into today's video. I'm tired. I'm ready to go to bed, but I wanted to do a quick little recap on the 1/12 Mezco collectibles that they had on display for NYCC. And I'll be brutally honest with you guys, it's very difficult for me to keep track of all of these lines. Like, it feels like every other day there's a new release for a new action figure line that I don't pay too much attention to. I'm kind of an admirer of Mezco from afar. I've never really had too much experience with them. It is one of those lines that I do want to eventually kind of, you know, collect a little bit more of, so eventually we'll get to that point. But yeah, it was very difficult for me to kind of be able to tell exactly what's new, what's retired, and then what is still being sold, not only just in general but also at the convention itself. So in today's video, I'm going to try to do my best to do a quick little recap of stuff that is, you know, down the pipeline. This is the only way that you can actually see these action figures, through a display case at a convention. On a side note, a huge shout out to GWIS TV. I'm going to throw up a little screenshot of this content creator, one of the best content creators right now at NYCC, because honestly, there isn't a ton of content. There aren't like a plethora of different content creators there actually recording and uploading videos. He's one of the few that's consistently doing it. So huge shout out to him. Go ahead and show him some love, subscribe, watch all of his NYCC coverage. But as I mentioned, I just took some screenshots from that video and I wanted to do a quick little recap. So let's get straight into it. The first one obviously has to be the new 1/12 Mezco Red Hood action figure. And I mentioned this previously in a video that I actually did a video just specifically for this action figure because it was absolutely breathtaking and it just displays incredibly well. I love the soft goods jacket. I love all of the accessories, and I just love all of the sculpted detail. There was supposed to be a ton of added details here and there, like some knee pads and other little armor pieces to really bring the action figure to life. And I think they did an absolutely phenomenal job. What I didn't notice at the time of my upload was that the figure, I think, immediately sold out within like the first few minutes or the first couple of hours. And then at the convention floor, there was also a little tag that said it was sold out. So I'm assuming they brought a very small quantity to the actual convention floor and those completely flew off the shelves. But the figure does look amazing. Keep an eye on all of the major online retailers. Maybe this pops in and out of stock within the next few weeks or the next few days. Now, moving on to another couple of figures that I think have not been officially released. I know there was a pre-order window not too long ago. We're talking about the Joker and Batman from the Batman the Animated Series. This is a really intricate release. I love that action figure, the Batman action figure anyways. I love the soft goods. I love the color palette that they're using here. And if I'm not mistaken, it came with a plethora of really good accessories. The Joker, on the other hand, I don't know. I've said this before and I'll say it again. The clothing on this particular Joker feels a little bit baggy. I know it's somewhat accurate to the source material, but I don't know. It just feels like he's swimming in there a little bit. I think they could have made it a little bit tighter and just kind of adjusted it a little bit. But regardless, both of them look absolutely brilliant. And as I mentioned before, I think these were either in the pre-order phase or they were in the finishing phase where they were going to start shipping these out very soon. Now, let's not forget, they also had their Heath Ledger Joker pop up for pre-order not too long ago. And they also had it there on display, looking absolutely phenomenal. I've often given so much credit to the team behind all of the promotional images for these action figures because they do an absolutely brilliant job, you know, like photographing and working on the background and special effects and things of that nature. And, you know, seeing these action figures in plastic form on a display case, they just look absolutely beautiful. Now, it is worth mentioning none of those three figures come with accessories, or I should say a lot of the figures that were there on display that were being showcased that are up for pre-order or are still in like the early phases of development do not showcase the accessories. I'm not sure exactly why that is. Maybe they're still in pre-production or post-production. They're still kind of working out exactly what's going to be included with these figures, but it is something worth mentioning. Unless it's a figure that's available there, like the Red Hood, which showcased all of the accessories. Everything else that's like in the pre-order phase, they usually don't showcase anything aside from just the figure. Now, I'm not sure if the Christian Bale Batman was actually there. You know, from just based on this particular video, I didn't actually see him. Maybe he was hidden in another display case, or the figure just isn't ready to be showcased just yet. But I'm sure within the next couple of weeks or so, we should be able to get some in-hand images for that particular Christopher Nolan Batman. They also had the Terrifier there available. I think this is one of those new figures that just recently got announced and revealed, but it was also there. It comes with a ton of different accessories. I love the soft goods on this particular figure. There are times when I feel like a figure, like I just mentioned with the animated Joker, it just doesn't feel quite right. With this particular character, I think it just feels right at home. I love all of the intricate details. I love the extra head sculpts, the extra little blood splatter. It just brings the character to life. And this is coming from somebody that hasn't even watched the movies. I'm admiring the character from afar. I've heard great things. I know the premise kind of, so it's definitely a very interesting take on the character from One Mezco. It is also worth mentioning that they're starting to expand a little bit more on their horror universe. We know they've done like Freddy, and they also had the Texas Chainsaw Massacre on display, which is another really big reveal from Mezco. I love how realistic the apron is on this particular character, and I actually really like the color palette here. It's very bland. It's very gritty, down to earth. It's exactly what I would expect from a realistic take on the Chainsaw Massacre. This is a brilliant looking figure, and as I said, they continue to expand on the horror universe, which is honestly really nice because I think the alternative is NECA, and they do a fine job with their collectibles, but I just feel like Mezco does it slightly better. They get a plethora of different accessories, better paint apps, soft goods. It just feels a little bit more premium, and it's nice to have more and more options when it comes down to horror collectibles. They also had a 2-pack on display that I know absolutely nothing about. I'm going to assume that this is their own personal franchise or their own personal storyline. This is a Dog Nocturnal and a Yeti 2-pack. It's supposed to come with like an insane amount of accessories. It comes with a Yeti, soft like fur all around. I think it's flocked. And then it comes with Dog Nocturnal, who I'm assuming is an original character of theirs. I've often said this before, and I'll continue saying it. If you just want like a really good, like really well articulated action figure with a ton of accessories, go with their original characters because they can usually add a little bit extra. Whereas in like if they're doing a DC character or a Marvel character, in most cases they have to pay a little bit of a premium, or they either have to give you a markup or they're going to scale back in terms of accessories. Maybe they'll take away a head sculpt, maybe they'll, you know, skimp out on the accessories a little bit. It just has to do with the fact that licensing is really expensive for some of these lines. Warner Bros, Disney, they really like to upcharge for these manufacturers making collectibles based on their franchises, and this is a prime example of that. Like the amount of action figures and just the amount of plastic that you're getting with this 2-pack is absolutely mind-blowing, and I just, like I said, I love it. They had a ton of their like Gomez action figures on display, and you know, a bunch of their other original characters, and they just look so good in a glass display case. Now they also had their Agent Gomez on display, although I think this figure was originally released or debuted at San Diego Comic-Con, if I'm not mistaken. So he's kind of making his second appearance, but not everybody was able to get their hands on this particular version of Gomez, and it's probably one of the best looking ones in my personal opinion. I love the accessories that it came with. I love the soft goods and how well articulated the figure still appeared to be. So I think it was available at NYCC. They, I think, eventually sold out, but I'm still hoping that eventually they make some of those widely available because I just love those Gomez characters. I love the spin that they give each and every single one of them, and the really crazy backstories that they give them. Now, all of the ones that I've spoken about up to this point have been teased or announced or are up for pre-order or just barely came out. But this particular figure, as far as I'm concerned, is the first appearance that it's making from the Mezco 112th line. Like, I hadn't seen any promotional images. I had not seen any pre-order windows, and we're talking about the year one Batman action figure. So I could be completely wrong. Maybe they did announce it at a previous date, but just from where I'm standing, this is the first time that we're seeing it, and it looks absolutely brilliant. It's about time that we finally get more love for the year one storyline, and this just looks absolutely breathtaking. They also had a few other characters that we've seen before, action figures. They had Casey Jones on display, which we already saw at San Diego Comic-Con. They had Nightwing, who just recently went up for pre-order. Is this the original version? I can't quite keep my head straight here. But yes, I think that is one of the newer versions of Nightwing. And then we also got a really quick look at Nightcrawler, who had also been showcased at SDCC. Again, we don't really have any pre-order windows. We don't have any information what accessories it's going to come with, anything along those lines. But I just wanted to reiterate that we are starting to see those figures more and more consistently at these conventions, which makes me believe that within the next week or so, within the next month, we are definitely going to start getting some really good pre-orders hitting our poor bank accounts. But anyways, that's it. That's all I have for you guys. I'm not going to make this too long or extensive. I'm not going to ramble. I just wanted to talk about some really cool Mezco 112 action figures that I personally think are brand new. I couldn't quite confirm that because I'm not in the know-how when it comes down to every single Mezco action figure. Now, on a side note, there were some noticeable figures that were not there, or at least this particular content creator did not cover it. GWIS TV, which, by the way, he did a phenomenal job, but some of these figures were not showcased. For example, the Hulk that we saw at SDCC was not there, so I'm not sure exactly what's happening there. Maybe there's a redesign going on, or they just didn't want to showcase. There's also the small potential that it didn't get approved by Marvel. We know that this is something that happens pretty consistently. There's a product sample that goes out to the to whoever owns the license. Like, let's say it goes out to Disney, and then maybe they don't approve of it, they don't like something about it, or they just aren't able to come together on the numbers, and then the figure just never goes into production. I just wanted to throw that out there because people are going to wonder. Yes, that Hulk was not on display as far as I'm concerned, unless, you know, it was hidden somewhere and then it's getting missed overall. But anyways, I'm going to stop rambling now. If you guys enjoy this type of rambling action figure content, make sure to stay tuned. I am going to try my best to kind of wrap all of these exclusives, or I should say wrap all of the exclusive announcements for NYCC and then pass them on to you guys. But if I miss anything, I'll circle back around and I'll correct myself if I said any buffoonery. As always, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you stay tuned. We do it on a daily basis. Thank you guys so much for supporting, for staying tuned, for tuning in every single day. And, you know, enjoy the hobby, pose your action figures, play around with them. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.